Unfortunately, there's no other way to start this video than without mentioning the passings we've had in the world of motoring and motorsport over the last couple of weeks. I suppose the first one, the most shocking one, was Sabine Schmitz, who was only 51 years old and passed away after a long battle with cancer. With something she didn't make public up until a couple of months ago, and to be honest, I hadn't even known until her passing was announced. Like most people who are watching this, and most people around the world, I suppose, I wasn't even aware of who Sabine was until she appeared on Top Gear in 2004 or 2005, I think it was. Firstly, when Clarkson tried to take a Diesel S type around the Nürburgring in under 10 minutes, and Sabine uttered that infamous line that she would be able to do that lap time in a van. And TV producer Gold, they were like, we got to take her up on that challenge. And then subsequently she did take a transit around the Nürburgring in less than 10 minutes, a diesel transit van, helped along the way by a Dodge Viper GT3 car cutting a hole in the air for her, but nonetheless unbelievable. She was known as the Queen of the Nürburgring. She grew up near there. Her husband owns the Pistenklaus, the famous restaurant that's near the Nürburgring. She won the Nürburgring 24 hours twice, which is an achievement for anyone. And so far, she's the only female racing driver to ever do it. There's a fantastic video of her from a couple of years back at the Nürburgring in a Porsche GT3 RSR, where she literally just makes a mockery of the entire grid. She starts from the back for some reason, I can't remember why, but she just overtakes people as if they weren't there. I'll put a link to the description if I can work that out to that video. But a shocking passing, a very, very sad one too. But she seemed like such a great person. Obviously didn't know her personally, but yeah, the outpouring of grief from everyone in the motoring world and even outside the motoring world. I hate to use the word trending, but even the news story of her passing was in the top 10 most viewed articles on the BBC News website. So it goes to show the reach she actually had, and I hope she was an inspiration to lots of people. She certainly was for me. But yeah, terrible passing, and love and respect to all her friends and family. And then also another racing driver we lost only just last week, Johnny Butte, or as he's more famously known, Johnny Dumfries. He had a very, let me give his full title up here. Johnny Dumfries' full name was John Colum Crichton Stewart, the 7 Marquess of Bute, styled as the Earl of Dumfries. He came from aristocracy, Scottish aristocracy, but rather than following the footsteps of his fathers and his brothers and ancestors before them, he left his schooling early and decided he wanted to be a racing driver. Of course, coming from aristocracy and wealth, that certainly does help in the world of motorsport, but that's not to take away from Johnny Dumfries' career. He only did 1 year in Formula 1 in the famous JPS Black and Gold Lotus. He had an okay season, but unfortunately he was going up against a certain Ayrton Senna, who was in the other car in the team. But yeah, he won the 24 Hours of Le Mans with Jaguar in 1988, and he had other accolades throughout his career. Unfortunately, yeah, cancer got Johnny as well last week, and I think he was only 60. He was 62, again, way before his time. Another sad loss. There's a fantastic video of Johnny in the Lotus. It's an onboard over-the-shoulder camera, which obviously was a burgeoning technology in the 80s. Again, I'll try and put a link to that in the description. Another sad loss in the motorsport world. And of course, while we're talking about all these sad passings, I hate to say not before his time, but Murray Walker, at the age of 97, passed away. One of those sad ones, you're kind of like, it's going to happen inevitably. I hate to say that about anyone, but he certainly had some good innings, did Murray. I had the opportunity to meet Murray Walker back in, I'm going to say it was 2003. He was doing a book signing for his autobiography in Easton's on O'Connell Street, and ironically I wasn't able to make it because I was working in a Formula 1 shop at the time. I was doing my work experience in transition year, and just the way the schedule was worked out, the boss said there wasn't enough people to cover the lunch breaks and I couldn't go. thankfully a couple of my mates went down and got the book signed for me, so I do have at least have a signed copy of his autobiography, but I never got to meet the man. But he was the voice of my childhood. I got a love for cars out of nowhere, and my love from Formula One kind of came out of nowhere as well. But Murray certainly must have been a large hand in that, because his excitement and his voice, captured my excitement for the sport. A terrible loss again, but to say 97 years old, Murray certainly had a long and illustrious career and a long and illustrious life. There's not much else I can add to all of these obituaries that other people haven't already said. But the one I'll take away from Murray Walker is I was listening to a podcast with motoring journalist Andrew Frankel, who knew Murray quite well, and he was talking to Murray about what was his favourite racetrack, and Murray said Spa, the old school Spa, which was even more crazy than it is today. And Andrew asked Murray, when did he first visit Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium? And he said it was probably in 1945, when he passed through the area in a Sherman tank, because Murray was part of a tank division during World War II. And also, some people might not know, Murray worked in advertising up until the 1970s. He actually got into full-time commentating on motorsport after he retired from his role in the advertising agencies. And Murray, although he would be the first to admit, Murray did not come up with the infamous line, "Mars Day helps you work, rest and play," but he did come up with the safety slogan, "Clunk click every trip," to tell people to put their seatbelt on, which unfortunately was made infamous by Jimmy Savile. We won't talk too much about him. There was another one he came up with, but I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, he was a dab hand in the advertising agency. He still commentated in his spare time while he was working in the ad agencies. And then when he retired from being an ad executive in the 1970s, he went full time at the BBC, commentating on Formula One up until 2001, when he finally hung up his microphone. No one's really managed to fill his boots since. There is some good commentators out there, but there will only ever be one Murray Walker. I've been talking nearly 8 minutes about people who have left us, so I'll try and pick up the mood now and cut to my opening sequence, nearly 8 minutes into this video. So yes, I am back. Finally, I've been busy. What can I tell you? It's been over 2 weeks since I last made one of these videos. I hope everyone's well. I hope you're keeping safe and well. Not a whole lot has actually happened really in the motoring world in the last 2 weeks. Unfortunately, those bereavements I talked about before the credits rolled. But there were one or two interesting things I wanted to discuss, which I'll bring up here now. So firstly, BMW launched probably one of the most important EVs that they're going to release in the next couple of years. It's the BMW i4. It's their four-door saloon EV, which will be going up against obviously the Model S Tesla and stuff like the Polestar 2. It's got a very 4 Series-esque design to it, with the big kidney grille and the kind of louvered surfaces, etc., but it's got blue accents and stuff, to highlight it as one of their EV models. I'm just going to come out now and say, like, the big giant grills, I've got over the shock of them, and when they have a plate on them, a registration plate, they don't look that bad. As a whole, obviously BMW's styling has gone backwards, but I think also car design generally is really gone way past its peak. Not the best looking car in the world. I'd still have one over a Model S. From the back, I think it looks quite okay from the back and from the side. And I said, like, I'm over the whole shock of the big kidney grills. Sounds like an interesting car. They're claiming 530 horsepower and a range of 366 miles or 400-ish kilometers. So it's an important car for BMW, and I think, to be honest, it'll do pretty well. People will basically buy anything shiny and made by BMW, really, regardless of what it looks like. Well, we shall see anyway. The most recent M3 and M4 will probably be the real acid test as to how people feel about the controversial styling of late. A different electric car news. There's a new company in the UK called Watt Electric Vehicles, and they've released images of it's a testing prototype of what they hopefully want to end up putting into production. It kind of looks like a Porsche 356, tweaked enough that they won't get the lawyers from Porsche on the phone. It still does look a little rough around the edges, but say this is a pre-production testing model. But the key thing here is that the Watt electric vehicles, what they really plan to do is try and make electric sports cars, but ones that will all actually want to drive. And this prototype, they say, it has a sub 1,000 kilo curb weight, so less than a ton curb weight, a 230 mile range, and then obviously all the performance you'll get from an EV. They're saying, a 0-60 time in less than 6 seconds, 160 horsepower, perfect 50-50 weight distribution, and obviously the body on this is it's all it's a skateboard chassis with all the electric motors on each axle, or the rear axle in this case because it's a sports car. So what body goes on top of it really is up to the customer, if they want to go for something different. But as I said, at the moment they're kind of going for a Porsche 356 look. So yeah, it'd be interesting to keep an eye on that story, because a really fun to drive electric sports car, could be the tonic I think us dinosaur combustion engine lovers might need. Obviously it won't fully replicate suck, squeeze, bang, blow, but hey, this is the way the world's going, so we gotta embrace the people who are trying to make electric cars fun. So yeah, good luck to Watt Electric Vehicles. So I think that's enough electric cars anyway. As I said, for us dinosaurs who love the internal combustion engine. So some new cars with pistons. So Pagani have released the Huayra Or, which will probably be the run out of the Huayra, possibly, maybe. But then they said the Zonda Or was going to be the run out for the Zonda, and I'm pretty sure they're still making special edition Zondas to this day. So yeah, like the Zonda Or, it's a balls to the wall, super aerodynamic, lightweight version of the normal Huayra. It's going to be track only, but the big thing is it's got a 9,000 peak revs of 9,000 RPM, 6-litre Mercedes V12 that has been brought up to 850 horsepower. But the most interesting thing, because the Huayra uses the same Mercedes 6-litre Mercedes V12 and all the other variants of the Huayra. But in all the other variants, it's twin turbocharged, whereas in this Huayra Or, it's naturally aspirated. So that'll be interesting. It'd be nice to see if they actually are able to put this naturally aspirated version into some sort of road-going version. Maybe not due to emissions, possibly. But hey, a 9,000 RPM, 850 horsepower naturally aspirated V12, be it track only, is still something to celebrate. So I look forward to seeing that. Hopefully they'll give Chris Harris and any other of the Jethro Bovingdon and Henry Catchpole, any of the well-respected journalists, how to get a car sideways, and we'll be able to hear what that V12 sounds like when it's out on track. Good luck to Pagani with that one. Glickenhaus, who I've discussed previously, who are going to be taking part in the new World Endurance Championship, with all its different criteria for entering into the top category for Le Mans and such. So they are going to be competing this year in the 2021 World Endurance Championship with their ground up Le Mans hypercar. And they're a fully independent team, so this is going to be really interesting to see how they play out. Their car looks pretty impressive from what we've seen in testing, but they are going to build a road going version, they're saying, to correspond with the endurance car, the endurance racing car. And they're going to go for the full-on, 3-seater central driving position, bring two of your mates, with the road-going version. Details are scant as such. It'll be incredibly expensive, incredibly rare, and be incredibly powerful. No doubt. They're saying something like 1,400 horsepower, maybe, from I believe a twin turbocharged V8. That'll be interesting. More ridiculous hypercars, even if they are, unobtainium and only for oligarchs and people who own small countries. But again, I hope at least they give it to some journalists and we get some videos of road-going versions and see them going sideways, making lots of noise. So good luck to Jim Glickenhaus and his team, Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus. Good luck to them in the World Endurance Championship and good luck to them with the road car. More ridiculous combustion cars the better before they're made illegal. And then the last little bit of car news I'll go into before I segue into something related is Aston Martin have released a F1 edition of the Vantage. The reason they've done this is because Aston Martin are going to be sharing safety car and medical car duties with Mercedes this year. Mercedes have been the sole safety and medical car suppliers for over 20 years in Formula One now. So sharing the duties with Aston Martin is an interesting change. How they break up the schedule, I don't know. Also, of course, Mercedes do actually own a sizable chunk of Aston Martin, so it's not as if they're competing or anything. The engine in the current Vantage is the Mercedes 4-litre twin-turbo V8. But anyway, the F1 Vantage they're releasing, it's got 24 more horsepower, so I think that brings it up to 535 brake. Huge chassis revisions, changes to the suspension setup, more aero, big wing on the back. It's also, but like they say, its dynamics are capable enough that they don't have to put an aggressive track tyre on it, so it's not running like a Cup 2R or anything. Apparently it's going to come on Pilot Sport S's, I think, 4S's, which is interesting. So like they don't feel they have to put a super sticky tyre on it for it to perform around the track and on the road. Obviously it's a road car. Some will say it's cynical marketing, jumping on their F1 endeavours, but it's the first Aston Martin we're going to see from the tutelage, shall we say, of Tobias Moores, who came from Mercedes AMG. He's the person who brought Mercedes AMG from just Mercs with big giant engines in them to cars that are quite dynamic and very capable and able to take it to the competition from Mercedes or BMW M and the likes. So yeah, I'm intrigued because I like the Vantage, and a tweaked, more powerful, more focused one can only be a good thing. So speaking of the F1 edition Aston Martin, I'm going to segue into Formula One. So if you've no interest in Formula One, feel free to stop watching now. But if you do, continue. So a lot of people might have a new or a renewed interest in Formula One thanks to the Netflix series Drive to Survive. Which confuses me slightly because people don't seem to care for Formula One, and then all of a sudden Drive to Survive is this week was the number one Netflix show globally. As a diehard F1 fan, I'm not super cynical about it. The show is designed to get non-Formula One fans interested in the sport, and anything that makes my absolute nerditry of motorsport and Formula One be more acceptable to the wider population, I'm all for. You have to take Drive to Survive with a pinch of salt. Not everything in it is as it did actually happen.
Dramatization may not have happened.
Stuff like radio messages dropped into footage that actually didn't happen at the time. Big giant dramatic pauses, weird sound effects, creating dramas that really weren't there. The episode with Lando and Carlos at McLaren, like there's no rift there. But yeah, no, it's good. And the footage is some of the footage, the back, behind the scenes footage that we don't really see on the normal feed, and getting a lot more kind of honest interviews from drivers and team personnel because they know it's not going to go out until post season. It's good. But anyway. The Formula One season is starting this weekend. It starts this Friday with practice in Bahrain. We're back to Bahrain already. It was at the tail end of last season, and it's at the beginning of this one. So if you're watching Drive to Survive, Formula One, it doesn't take place in 40-minute chunks. The races are close to 2 hours. The entire weekend is 3 days long. Well, 4 days. It's Thursday's press day, Friday is practice, Saturday is practice. Saturday is practice and qualifying, and then you get the race on a Sunday. It's 23 races long this season. It's starting now in March and it runs all the way to December. But if Drive to Survive has got you excited, just be patient with the actual real life Formula One, because it takes some investment, because there's so much going on. The politics, the technology, the soap opera, and then of course the racing itself. They all come together to make one big show. But it's going to be an interesting season. Only 2 teams have the same driver lineup that they had last year. Mercedes at the front of the grid and Williams at the back. Mercedes with Lewis and Valtteri Bottas. And then Williams have Nicholas Latifi and George Russell again this season. But then Red Bull, Max is still leading the show there, but now he has a very experienced teammate and now race winner, Sergio Perez, who's definitely going to be giving it all with this opportunity that came his way very last minute. And hopefully Red Bull were definitely appeared to be the strongest in pre-season testing, but you'd be a fool to think that Mercedes have dropped the ball and are going to fall down the grid. But hopefully it's hopefully it's a 2-horse race. Red Bull and Mercedes will hopefully be fighting for the championship together. Similar to, say, maybe 2018 when Ferrari really gave Mercedes a bit of a push. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, that's it so far. It's hard to know. Practice is the first thing, which will happen on Friday. There's not much you can really gather from the first practice session, and we might get some idea of what the order is. But qualifying on Saturday will give us the best insight as to really where everyone is sitting, and kind of what the theme of the rest of the season will probably be. Anyway, I've gone on quite some time now. This is probably the longest one I've done. I think we're knocking half an hour, because obviously I haven't done this in a while, and I've kind of rambled a bit, and there's a lot of sad news. Not my greatest work. So probably as you can see, I'm sitting in the back of my BMW. The reason why I'm doing it is, one, because there's better lighting out here, than there is in my shitty back room in my house. The car is stationary. Probably the best way to describe that is because here's one of the belts from the engine. I went to turn it over the other day to see if I could see where my coolant leak was coming from, and as soon as I cranked the engine, I heard a very strange noise, so I shut it off immediately, and the pulley on the water pump decided to just explode.
Yes. And then if we look at this pulley, and most of it seems to be down here. Yeah, that's not going to do anyone any good now, is it?
And it took that belt with it. What next for the BMW? I haven't really thought that far, but watch this space. So I'll leave you and love you and leave you and love you and love you and leave you. So stay safe, stay well. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.